And a lot of those guys will be back in March for the big 20th anniversary. So a lot of that information is start to come out now about that weekend and that last game against Wake Forest for that weekend.
We hope that most of them will get back.
This is a question from Edna. It says, Coach, I was in Manly when the Soviets came to play us in 1975.
Wow.
I was in Greensboro when we beat Leitner and Hurley December 6th of 1989.
Wow.
And ever in between and since. When are we going to be able to get back to those kind of glory days?
Yeah, we're not that good. There's no question. We're not as good as we were. There's no question. Those teams were better. So yeah, we need to get better. We need to keep working at it, get better players and recruit better. And we're going to do that. But not many people were at those two games. Very few Syracuse fans were at the Greensboro game. That was a great game. Came down to the end, and Billy Owens made a pass to David Johnson, and they tried to belie. They fouled him. He made both free throws, and we won the game. But that was a great game down there. And obviously, the Russian game, we came from behind. That was their Olympic team. They had the Belovs and all. They had a great team. We came from behind. Roosevelt and Lewis were freshmen, I think. And we came behind and beat them right at the end of the game. They complained about the officiating that they got fouled, but I don't think they did.
I don't think they did either, and that's the same team that benefited during the Olympics. There should be one to complain about officiating.
No, that's for sure.
Question here. Let me see here. It has to do with when it says this one. When Joe is struggling, could Samir, who likes to pass, and Judah... at the same time, a few games.
We played them together. We played them. We played them together in Illinois, and we played Justin back there as well. But yeah, we've played Samir and Judah together quite a bit already, and they could play together. You'd rather have one good shooter out there for sure, but they're both good penetrators, so it depends.
Question here, Coach. Can you ask Coach, a lot of time was spent at IMG recruiting Copeland and Taylor. Did you guys consider offering Zach Eddy? And if so, did we have a shot at him being from Toronto?
Nobody recruited Zach Eddy. Like, nobody. He was an unknown recruit. Nobody liked him. He went to Purdue. It took him 2 or 3 years to develop, and now he's a really, one of the best centers in the country. But we got Jesse down there, and he's now becoming one of the better centers in the country too. So they both developed. Neither one was highly recruited at all, and especially Zach Eddy.
See this one here. And actually, you talked about it on the radio portion a little bit ago, and maybe even with Matt in the first hour there. But can you give fans the reason to be optimistic over the winter months?
I'm not sure what that means.
I think just the start to the season with a lot of the young guys. But
we're going to get
by
better.
The end of the season,
we're going to get better. We're going to get better before the end of the season, and we're just going to keep working at it, and we will get better.
Let me see. Other questions. NBA coach, I was watching a Golden State Warriors game a couple nights ago. There were 10 traveling calls. I've never seen that many in an NBA game.
No.
Are they clamping down on that?
That's new.
Finally?
No, I've been watching NBA this year. That's new to me. I've never seen more than 2 called in a game when there's been 20 probably. So that's highly unusual. I did see Steph the other day. Steph took about 5 steps, and he didn't think he walked. But they don't call traveling too much in that league. It's a players' league. They want to let them play.
This one from Steve. When Joe scored 31 points, he was 8 for 13 inside the arc. Should he be looking more for the twos when the threes aren't falling?
Well, he couldn't get anything. At Illinois, he couldn't get any shots, really. And he hasn't really made either twos or threes in this recent slump he's been in. But, if he can get good looks at the three, we want him to try to take threes. They count more. That's
Edna, back another question. And I think we've talked about this because you do have some guys that come back and work with the guys or talk to the guys about having DC come and work with guys on rebounding? Just
Well,
'cause
they can't. He can't actually work with them. You know, it's only the coaches that can work with them. But he's come back and talked to our players and tell them be more aggressive, be more physical. But that's usually what he does. He yells at them. get more rebounds.
Not constructive.
Yeah. It's constructive in a way, but it's the way he approaches it is
different. That's kind of a throwback method.
Yeah.
This one here, again, going back to Joe, and Joe being able to beat his man to get anything off at the moment. Like he can't seem to create his own shot, or
he has trouble. You know, we try to give him screens, try to put him in a position where he can get a little edge, a little gap. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do with our offense.
College football coach, I know they have cleared a path to start that 12-team deal sooner than anticipated. It'd be 20, 24, and 25.
Yeah, it's about $400 or $500 million a year, so you figured they'd figure a way to do it. You know, it's better. I mean, this year it'd probably work out all right. But if Ohio State doesn't get in, or if USC doesn't get in, one of those teams, they're going to be unhappy. I think there's always going to be unhappy teams, but if you take care of 6 or 7, 8. And, if 13's unhappy, that's not a big problem.
You got to get better.
You just got to make sure the 5th or 6th team could be winning, gets in. That's all. But, yeah, it's 12's better. It's better.
Now, that in kind of a way, I don't say watered down isn't the right word, but the regular season, for example, like the Michigan-Ohio State game is always such a
it's still a big game because...
But if they lose now, they're kind of out of it. But if they lose, when there's 12 teams to pick from, you could lose that game.
Yeah, but that doesn't water it down because they're a really good team. You don't water it down. I mean, you're still one of the top 12 teams in the country. I mean, you got to be in the top 12 teams in the country to get in. And that game is still just as important. I mean, that's a bragging rights. That's a huge game. I mean, to say these games aren't valuable. I mean, if Alabama and Auburn, like Michigan, Ohio State, a guy won 85% of his games and he couldn't beat Michigan. He got fired at Ohio State. They're already talking about Ryan Day. If he doesn't win next year, he's lost 2 in a row. He was 35-9 or 6, something like that, and they're talking about firing him because he didn't beat Michigan.
Yeah, beat Michigan.
Yeah, that's an important game. It doesn't matter whether you go wherever you go. You need to win that game. Same as Auburn, Alabama, and all those big games. But you don't water down tournaments. You just don't. Even the NCAA basketball, it doesn't matter how many teams you put in there. The best teams are going to get through. That's the way it works.
That's how it goes.
At the end of the day, the best team, like if you had 24 teams for the college basketball tournament, you get a good winner. You get the best team winning there, or probably one of the better teams. Sometimes it's not the best, but 48, same thing, 72. It ends up you get more teams in there, more guys an opportunity to play in the tournament, which is good. And then at the end, the best teams are going to get to the Final Four, pretty much.
Speaking of records, you're talking about the guy at Ohio State. I heard this stat today about between the Boston Celtics, who are obviously playing really well this year, and the Boston Bruins right now. The two teams combined in Boston are 24-1.
Yeah, the Celtics are really good. They lost their coach and they haven't stepped back. The NBA is a players' league. Greg Popovich is one of the best coaches that ever coached anywhere. And he's in last place because he doesn't have those players that he had. I mean, you can't. 48-minute game, players decide who wins. There's some upsets, but by and large, the best players win. That's who wins. It's an absolute players' league. And, Celtics got 2 of the best players in the game. Those 2 guys are really good. You get 2 of the best players on the same team. That's hard. I mean, you could argue they're both top 10 players, in the league almost. So that's pretty good.
Golf, Tiger Woods, even if he's not playing, is still the voice for the sport. And it's too bad he wasn't able to play in the Hero Challenge. Like we talked about before. He said he can make the shots. He can't walk around the course.
I don't know why he didn't. He went out and said, "I'm not using a cart." I don't understand that. He's got an accident. It's it's not that he's lazy or not. He wants some advantage. He had a major catastrophic accident. He can't walk, but he can still play golf. Why don't you ride a car? I don't get it. I think they should apply if you're, if you've got some kind of disable, if you're just out of shape and fat or something, then you shouldn't ride. But I mean, if you've got something like that, you should be able to get a cart. I'd like to see him play. I'd rather see him play than not play. But he'll play in his next couple of events because there's carts in them. But I'd just like to see him be able to play. And if he could have a cart, he could probably play 8-10 tournaments a year. Now he'd be lucky. It sounds like he's going to play about 6 tournaments a year, maybe. And if he could ride a cart, I think he could play 10 or 12.
And he echoed Rory McIlroy when it comes to the LIV tournament. Time to Greg Norman's got to go. And is it going to be like the AFL and the NFL at some point? It'll just merge.
Something will happen, but that's not the way to get it done, because the surest way for them not to change Greg Norman is for PGA people to say, fire Greg Norman. They're not going to do it then. Even if they were thinking about it, they're not going to do that, because then you're letting the enemy tell you what to do. So that's not good strategy if you really want him out. But eventually they've got to find a way for the LIV players to play in the majors. And that's all they'd like to play in a few more PGA Tour, but I don't think that's going to happen. But they have to find a way for the better players on that tour to play in the majors. Otherwise, you don't have a real major winner. If you don't have Cam Smith, Dustin Johnson, and some of those guys in the majors, well, you're eliminating some of the best players in the world from being in the majors. And the majors don't want that. So they have to figure that out, which I think they will. But as long as the money stays with that LIV tour, as long as they have them backing, they're going to be there.
This question, Coach, are you happy with the ball movement and the passing on offense?
Right now, no. We're not happy with anything. Illinois is a hard team. You can't pass at them. They pressure, and you have to go by them. And you have to make plays, some off the dribble, and that's hard to do against them. But you can't really pay. They're overplaying. They're pressuring a lot. But I'm not happy with any part of our offense right now.
Other topics, Coach. Yesterday was Bo Jackson's birthday. Did you ever see him live play football or baseball?
I didn't see him play. I've been around him. I've seen him. I've met him play golf at the same tournaments he's been in. He's a bigger than life kind of guy. But I saw him on TV. He was pretty good.
Question here from Coach D. Thoughts on the new ACC SEC challenge for next year?
Well, it'll be tough. I mean, it's same as this two. It's at least as tough, or even tougher, probably.
This morning, Coach, on the radio, we had Oswaldo Cabrera, the New York Yankees player, up-and-comer. And he said, he's a young guy, obviously, so he's still excited about being up with the big leagues. And he said that one of the coolest things for him early on, I think it was his first game, maybe up, they played the Angels, one of the first games that he played in, to see Mike Trout in person, and even he's going to be a star in the Yankees himself.
I hope so.
But he, he just had a great story about seeing Mike Trout out in the field, and what a thrill that was. Is there, at this point in your career, in your life, is there anybody you haven't met yet that you'd put in that, where if you saw them, it would be exciting?
I met most all these guys, all the basketball players, and Tom Brady was a guy like that. I was really happy to meet him. Tiger Woods, those are the guys that, stand out to me as guys that really, kind of like and like to see and like to meet. But, no, I've been lucky. I've met a lot of guys. I met, Michael Phelps when he won the 10, 12, 15 gold medals, whatever it was he won. And, Nadal was around at the Olympics. He's a big Spanish basketball fan. But, no, I've met a lot of those guys. It was Arnold Palmer that was a big one for me. I mean, holy cow, Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
I've never met Jack Nicklaus. I've never been someplace where he's been, but I met Muhammad Ali when he was young, and Henry Aaron was a big idol of mine. He was probably my favorite baseball player. I got to meet him, and he was such a nice man and so gracious. That was a big thrill. It was Hank Aaron and I think Willie Mays this dinner, and I was like, holy, this is it. It doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better than this.
That's big time.
Hank Aaron and Willie Mays.
Let me see a couple of other quick questions here before we wind up. Can Jesse be used as a facilitator to get open looks for shooters after the ball movement?
They haven't doubled him that much to where he can do that. They're kind of leaving him down there. The more productive he gets, the more he's efficient. Then they start to double him. Then he can do that, I think.
This one here, does Jerry see? Coach, what does Jerry say about how some of these young kids are shooting free throws?
Well, we have been pretty good from the free throw line. Not great. We haven't really got to the line enough, probably. Which if you shoot a lot of threes, you don't get there usually. But, I think our shooting is something that we work on a lot. And we've got guys that are good shooters. They're young, and it takes a while for those guys to get comfortable and make shots. I think Illinois' freshman point guard was 0 for 10. They didn't need him. They got veteran guys.
This one here, Coach, does Chris Bell remind you of Dante Green his freshman year, the way Bell is playing currently?
No. They're both good shooters. Dante was bigger, a lot bigger. But Chris is more like James was, James Sutherland. Really good shooter. James was a little more bouncy, went and rebounded a little bit more. Chris Bell's got 0.9 rebounds per game. We've never had that. Ever that statistic from a player that played a lot, so he needs to get better there.
This one here, Coach, first, well-deserved Ring of Honor night. Any place you're thinking of for a celebratory dinner?
No, now we're trying to get better. If we don't get better, I'm going to be eating at home. I'm going to be eating a tuna fish sandwich at home if I get that.
Is Chris a strong three-point shooter in practice?
Yeah, he really can shoot. He's a high-level shooter, and he'll continue to get better. I think he can be a great shooter someday.
Last but not least, Steve says Joe rebounds better than Chris.
Unfortunately, right now,
that's probably the truth.
That's not a good look.
Not a good stat.
No.
Hey, Coach, thanks. This is a fun segment, and tomorrow we'll call you at 7:40 in the paint on the radio. Good luck at Notre Dame. Back here next week at Carrabba's Italian Grill. Thanks, everybody. Paulie here and Jordan back at the Rock and Roll Radio Ranch. See you next time here at QSportsTalk.com, and go Orange.